Hi there. Hi, Nadia.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to MSP TV. MSP TV, this is our inaugural broadcast. We are live from Vienna, where we've just wrapped up an intense two-day conference, the Nuclear Ban Forum. But just to give you the quick pitch, MSP TV will come to you twice a day with live broadcasts at 9:30 a.m. and 5:30 p.m., so in the morning and in the evening, Vienna time, from the various conferences that will be happening here in Vienna as part of Nuclear Ban Week, so that you get a bit of an overview, a summary of the conference proceedings that have been happening on that day. And also we will speak always with one or two interesting speakers from that day to get a bit also more details on what's been happening. And let's dive right in. You can always find our latest shows and also the previous ones on vienna.icanw.org/live. This is where MSP TV lives. Mm-hmm. And let's start right away. Why are we in Vienna? What's the big draw?
What's the big thing? Well, we're here at the Aula in the middle of central Vienna. We're just taking down all these amazing stages and stuff. We just finished the Nuclear Ban Forum, but we are really here in Vienna for the Nuclear Ban Week for the first meeting of states parties of the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. And we have like a whole week of activities around it that maybe, Nadia, you want to share a little bit on what we're doing here in general?
Well, it's happening a lot. I don't know if I can list everything we have. So it's the Civil Society Forum, like the ICAN Nuclear Ban Forum, which took place yesterday and today, which we just read up. Tomorrow we are having or attending and seeing a conference organized by the Austrian government on the humanitarian consequences of nuclear weapons. Then there will be a parliamentarian conference with a lot of international parliamentarians from a couple of NATO countries even being here in Vienna to discuss what they can do and decide on an action plan. And then, of course, we have the 3 days of the first meeting of states parties that ever took place, which I'm quite happy about that it takes place in Vienna and the governments took this opportunity. And there will be also a youth conference on Tuesday and a lot more.
A lot more. And it's really about bringing in all of these different communities. I think the Nuclear Ban Week, of course, is centered around the meeting of states parties, but all these additional meetings and events like the Civil Society Forum, it's really about bringing voices to everyone else, all the other stakeholders, the parliamentarians, the youth, impacted communities, civil society, and all of the experts on the humanitarian conferences.
All of these conferences and people coalescing around the historic first meeting of the state parties of the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. Great.
Yes.
So that's something to look forward to. But looking back at the weekend, we already had 2 days of intense conferencing. How do you feel?
Tired. Enjoying my beer right now. No, we wrapped it up. No, it's been really incredible. I mean, first, it's been the first meeting that we've had in a very long time.
And the biggest ICAN conference so far, no? More than 600 people.
Yeah. And
a lot of more online.
Streaming online. And honestly, if I can say it myself, like I don't think ICAN has ever been this impressive. Just seeing all the partner organizations in the room, seeing the diversity in the room, seeing the way that the workshops, people's plans for the future, and during the meeting, like even political results delivered during the meeting, like the Dutch government confirming to observe, the Belgian government confirming to observe, the Australian government confirming to observe. Like these kind of, we're working on some ratifications, like coming in soon, hopefully.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert, sorry. But seeing all this, I mean, I think that the activism and the work of ICAN partners around the world is really just going up, right?
Yeah, and the SLIC conference, no? I mean, the things that was a virtual reality shows about the day after, where you really get an immersive view of nuclear weapons. There was a hybrid event involving a hybrid event in Australia and in Japan and here, so on 3 continents, which actually worked out very smoothly. So that's something to be proud of.
We worked hard on it. It was a bit of a woof, but it worked out. Yeah.
And the video statement from the New Zealand Prime Minister. What other highlights did you have these past 2 days?
Well, I think a lot of. I think, in my opinion, like the whole thing was a highlight for me because our hopes materialized, right? Because we really hoped for bringing a lot of people globally together for the first time again in the last years that we haven't met, but also in giving hope on one hand in like quite dark times, and that if we work together, if we stay together, and we can change. But also being an inspiration, like the people, the tendencies, inspiring each other, but also the speakers. And I really have the feeling that we managed it, right, in providing a ground here in the aula, because we really wanted to get like a lot of people coming together
from all around the
all
world.
over the world. And it was like, it was so vibrant and it was so diverse. And I think it's really one, also if you look at the program,
It was a great program.
It's 4 stages throughout the whole 2 days. And I mean, if you look at the website where we also have the MSPTV list, like we were scrolling down all the speakers. It's like, this is a truly global and diverse conference.
Yeah, it was a good overview of what ICANN is, no? Like from all over the world, all these people coming from faraway countries. It was on extremely long plane journeys to Vienna. So that was really a special
Yeah, and I
atmosphere.
also think, you know, so often when I talk about nuclear weapons and I meet people who are very supportive of our work, and they say, how do we need to get more youth, there are no young people. And I was like, yeah, there are. I mean, I'm the old one here, really, which is quite, you know, it's a change. But I mean, I think that we really had a incredible sort of participation from young people who are, you know, discovering this issue now or in the past years, and really like taking actions to do something. And I think that that was incredibly inspiring.
Yeah, and we would also try to develop kind of like new ways. We had this town hall setting. So really like creating space, creating time and corners all over here at the aula. We have like the audience, like maybe at the live stream, like rewatching, like 3 levels of different spaces where people can really sit together, discuss and talk. And I think this was so great to see.
To create a positive atmosphere, no? I mean, there's just so many bad news coming in around nuclear weapons. Like wherever one looks, there's nuclear threats, there's proliferation issues, there's really quite a lot of negative news coming in around nuclear weapons. So I think someone today mentioned at the conference that this mobilization here and the treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons are really the only piece of good news, the one ray of sunlight that we need to focus on in order to bring ourselves closer to a constructive solution on nuclear weapons, rather than just focusing on the difficulties in bringing forward nuclear disarmament. So that's, I think, really a very positive energy to go into this week. Now the fun part is over. The serious conferences are starting. So let's dive right in it. What's your specific expectations for the meeting of state parties, so for the big one?
Yeah, I mean, the meeting of states parties, I mean, this is the first international UN conference on nuclear weapons since Russia threatened Ukraine to use nuclear weapons in the conflict in Ukraine to sort of justify their illegal invasion. So it's a great opportunity for governments to really strongly condemn the Russian nuclear threats. So we're expecting that the states parties, because nuclear weapons threats are banned, the treaty bans the use and possession, but also threat to use nuclear weapons. So this is the only international instrument that actually bans that kind of behavior. So we're expecting states parties to strongly condemn any threats to use nuclear weapons and make a political declaration that is kind of articulating the views of these countries that have signed and ratified the treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons. And that will be a strong message to the world, a strong message to the nuclear armed states. And not only will they make a political declaration and make this statement, but they will also put it into concrete action by adopting, and they're negotiating this right now, and they're going to negotiate it for the 3 days, so we don't know exactly how it's going to look like. But they're working on developing an action plan with concrete steps. This is how we implement this political declaration, the treaty. These are the steps that we are going to take as a group of governments to really enable nuclear disarmament to happen in the future. And this is really incredibly important meeting for that. And I think that the world needs to see that there are responsible states that are stepping up and meeting this challenge right now and saying, we're not going to do that, we're going to do this instead.
Absolutely. So an undiluted condemnation of what the responsible nuclear powers are doing.
Absolutely.
Reminding us that nuclear weapons are every country's business and you can't just leave it to those who have the weapons. But everyone has to play a role and hold them to their promises. But also the action plan on doing that kind of the specific, more procedural steps in order to implement the ban treaty.
But it's also, I think over the weekend we got several news of additional observing states, right? And so we have a couple of NATO states and umbrella states like that actually now coming. And I think this is also a sign, like not only, but I mean, only not in the meaning of only that states that have ratified and are being responsible, but we have more and more countries that are willing to step up and be there. Additionally to this openness of this whole process and the role of civil society and other shareholders in this process. But I think like over this weekend, I was so astonished, like seeing those news, like besides the running up and down the stairs here at Aula.
If you know, you know. Lots of stairs here.
Yeah, but we're having the first questions coming in from the audience actually. So one is, who will be our key target audience at the MSP when for advocacy? So who are we still trying to reach and
well, we have some different
influence?
objectives there, of course. We have the countries that have ratified, right? They are the ones who are really going to be the ones approving at the end and have a final say on the political declaration and the action plan. Of course, states that have signed the treaty are also there and speaking. They're not full states party yet, but you know they've committed to the treaty. They're in the process of doing it. So, of course, their word will weigh a lot as well in these conversations. So I think we will focus, of course, on getting countries to adopt the strongest possible political declaration and the most concrete implementable action plan that gets us towards nuclear disarmament. For the states parties, for the signatures and the countries that are supportive and working towards signature and ratification, we will work to get them to kind of lobby them and hear from them what their updates are on the ratification processes.
Ratify as soon as possible.
Can you ratify as soon as possible, for example? And for the states that are not so supportive yet
but
of the treaty,
that are
but
showing
observing.
up.
And I think that, like Nadia said, I agree very much with you. It shows responsibility, right? It shows that, okay, our government doesn't feel like we are in a position to sign this treaty now, but we are showing up. We're recognizing that this is a threat. And this is a problem. And the Russian nuclear threat is a really big problem. And we're going to talk about it. We know that the humanitarian consequences are really, unacceptable. So, and we will work with them to, also make them get used to the treaty. Like, this is not a dangerous treaty. This is not a treaty that they have to be scared of. There are many practical ways, including on victim assistance, for example, where it's like very much practical stuff that they can do with or without joining the treaty. So I think it's going to be a very constructive conversation. So we have a lot of different groups that we're going to work with.
And that's quite a few observer states now. And we have 4 from NATO. That's Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands, and
Norway.
And then Australia also just announced that they're going to join. Sweden and Switzerland and Finland already announced a while ago. There's going to be quite a few states that are also observing. But of course, first thing tomorrow, there's going to be the Humanitarian Impact of Nuclear Weapons Conference. So that's the immediate one. We have a question on that one as well. What we expect from tomorrow's meeting is the question. And basically, let's first dive in the significance of having the 4th Humanitarian Impact Conference here. What's the deal with the first 3 ones, and why is Austria organizing yet another conference before the MSP?
Maybe to the last one, it's been a while that that such a conference took place, and it's necessary to present new evidence, new research on it. So tomorrow's conference is mainly like experts presenting new evidence or the new research on the topic, in like informing people and getting
so
like the basis
of use of nuclear weapons, what actually happens when they are used, clean up, impacting communities.
And in many ways, the first 3 conferences were held in a different context. I remember the first Humanitarian Consequences conference in Oslo in 2013. This was before Crimea, for example. There were journalists and people like, oh, why are you talking about the use of nuclear weapons? That's so like hypothetical. It's never going to happen. Now we know, right, that it can happen, and we felt the threat. And the idea of nuclear weapons being used is no longer seen by people, by the public, as something that will never happen. It's not imagination.
But rather something you have to prepare for.
It's something we have to prepare for. And of course, we know, and we know from the UN, from the ICRC, from humanitarian organizations, that there is no preparedness. There is no ability to effectively respond to the humanitarian consequences.
So that leads you to the conclusion that you have to make sure that they're not used, which leads to the conclusion that they may have to be prohibited. So this is very much a conference also for those states that have not yet come around to signing the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, in order to familiarize them with the substantive arguments that led to the prohibition of nuclear weapons. And we'll be speaking about that in more detail tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. We'll be live from the conference venue, and we'll be joined by someone from the International Committee of the Red Cross, who also played a major role in bringing about the prohibition of nuclear weapons. And we'll also be joined by someone from an impacted community that will give us a completely different perspective on nuclear weapons and what it means for people who have seen the use and testing of nuclear weapons in their territories. So I think that will be extremely interesting. Please tune in for it tomorrow as well. You can find us, as I said, under vienna.icanw.org/live or on the ICANN social media channels. I'm looking forward to it. This was our first episode. Thank you so much for being with us, Beatrice and Nadia.
Thank you.
And speak to you soon.
Yeah, see you tomorrow.